I'm glad you're here, that I'll see Endovier again for the first time with you here. And he says, I'm glad to be here too, Fireheart.
For however much longer the gods would allow it. Hey everybody, this is Kat.
And this is Rachel.
And you're listening to the Smut Peddlers podcast, a show for people who love books, especially when there's smut. We discuss our likes, our dislikes, and share all our favorite moments with you.
Today we're talking about Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas, so grab your favorite beverage and get ready to burn with us. This is part 8 of Kingdom of Ash. We are going to be covering chapters 87 to 99 today.
Heck
We're
yeah.
Getting close. Getting close. What an episode this is going to be. I'm excited.
Oh, God. Okay, slight recap for where we are. Aedion, Lysandra. Shit's not good. Shit's not been good for a while. The last, 6 episodes, shit has been bad. Where Lysandra...
Shit got a little better.
Aedion. Slightly better. The witches have shown up.
Mm-hmm.
The witches have arrived. And not...
The witches are here.
Well, the bad witches arrived, but then the good witches came. The Crochans.
Yep.
This is when Manon and the 13 get back to the group. They have made it to Orynth, and she brought a few thousand Crochan witches with her, which is fantastic. So,
hell yeah.
Fingers crossed. Dorian has escaped Morath as well. He also made Morath go
shit up.
Boom. And
yeah.
He is currently disguised as a wyvern, which is pretty cool. Aelin, Rowan, Chaol, Nezrin, Sartak, all of them. The Cognate army, Aelin, Rowan, Chaol, Irene, Alid, Cadre. They made it to the Ferian Gap. No one was there. Except for Vernon, who we have left to die. And now they're going to head to Orynth. So yeah. There was a slight touch on this in the last section of chapters that I don't think necessarily touched on, but they will be on this path passing the salt mines of Endovier,
yeah,
which is not ideal for Aelin, or Chaol even. Aelin more so, but that was where technically Chaol and Aelin met for the first time, was Endovier.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Dorian went too, right?
Yeah, it was...
Because Dorian picks her up from there.
Yeah, it was Dorian and Chaol went together.
Yeah. Where it all began.
Mm-hmm.
All the way back from
all
our first book.
In book 1. Yes.
Back to where it all began.
Yeah. At this point, we have no new characters. Everyone... Bad is happening. Essentially, the world is ending. Not great. But, We also, the last, thing we got of Evangeline was that she saw Aedion get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was...
And Darrow was being a nice person
awful.
for 10 seconds.
Yeah. Darrow is nice to children, which honestly, fine. I'm okay with this. Minimum. You get extra points for being nice to children. He just holds other people to a higher standard, which is fair. I'm just glad he doesn't hold the children to that same standard. He's like, she's a child. She should not be having to deal with war. So I'm going to distract her. And then when she found out, he was like, I need you here in my office to help me directly. And we'll have someone else do the running back and forth. And you're going to eat food. Here you go.
Just here's some soup.
You can stare out into the... Whatever, I need you to be right here where you are. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
And then he immediately was like, well, I'm going to keep doing the war thing over here. And he just checks on her all the time, which is great.
Yep.
So.
It's lovely.
He gets a little bit of extra points because it's Evangeline.
So we start off this episode with Aelin and what I'm still calling the Dream Team, even though it's getting bigger by the second, which is fantastic. Everyone's making their way. Basically, we're making our way to all get back together as the full Dream Team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we learned from Vernon that Erewhon was headed with the witches or sending the witches to Orynth. And so we just know that Orynth is about to get hit. And so Aelin's freaking the fuck out. And they're like, we have to go now.
And he didn't know, obviously, because he left before everything with Dorian and Maeve and Erewhon, like, wrapped up. But after the explosion, like, we can pretty much assume that most likely they're gonna go north as well.
Yeah.
Everything is, like, it's all finally, like, coming to what is probably gonna be, like, the big battle. Everyone's gonna go north, because that's just where the whole army is. It's, like, the symbolic
Aedion and
destroying of that group, finally.
Yeah. So Aedion and Lysandra have been in the big battle the whole fucking time?
Yeah. They've been there the whole time. They've just been dealing with, like, waves and waves of what Erewhon has been sending in their direction.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
It's going to be...
They're just going to keep doing that. They're just going to keep dealing with it. So they're making their way north. The Coggan's army, along with Aelin, they're slow because it's a ginormous fucking army. So it's been about a week that they've been moving, and they've still got at least 10 days to go. Like, they also decide that they're going to go through Oakwald, which I love, because hopefully the little people will come with or help or make it go as quickly as possible. And the wild men of the Fangs have decided to stay with them as well and continue going, because, you know, they lost some people during the last battle, and they're like, hell yeah, we'll go with you and avenge all of our people. So they're making their way north. They're still concerned that it's going as slow as it is. As Kat kind of mentioned earlier, going that direction will likely take them past Indovir, which gets mentioned, like, really quickly. And Aelin doesn't really say anything about it yet, but
I think I got mentioned because Chaol had said the path, and, like, the name was recognized in, like, Rowan's POV. And so Rowan was like, she's known this the whole time. Because they were debating
two options.
Yeah.
They were debating about whether they went a different direction, but they decided to go through Oakwald. I think because the other way they... it had to do with, like, the...
It was because
being able to be covered by the
trees
trees
or something.
I think it was also because, like, they could be a little bit more hidden if they were in the trees.
Yeah.
So they decide to go that way. We have this great scene of Aelin and Rowan together. Aelin's getting a new tattoo. He's redoing the names of the loved ones that she had, like, originally gotten tattooed ages ago that, of course, like, all got wiped clean.
Over where her scars were.
Over where her scars were. And one of my favorite lines of this is that, like, she said that he didn't even need to, like, be told where to put them because he just knew, like, where her scars used to be, and even though they weren't there anymore, like, she could feel that he was putting them in the same place from before, almost remembering exactly where they were, which was so cute.
In this same period, it's when she brings up to him, finally, like, she says the words, we're gonna be going past Indovir.
Yeah.
And she essentially, he asks, what do you want to do about it? And she said she wanted to burn it to the ground. And she essentially asks him, like, is that, like, does that make me bad? Like, the fabled warrior prince wouldn't tell me to avoid carelessly expending my strength. And his response is, the fabled warrior prince would tell you to stay the course. But if destroying Indovir will help, then he'll be right there with you. Which just was like, even if it might not be, like, even if this decision might be a selfish one, Rowan just sees her making decisions to, like, help the greater good, like, to help everyone around her. So, like, this one little thing, he's like, just be selfish. Like, if you want to be selfish and burn Indovir to the ground, then let's fucking do it. I will help. And I'm sure if you told anyone else in the cadre to help you destroy it, they would too. Like, if you had Lorcan or Fenris or whoever, and you were like, just put all your power into making this like rubble, they would do it. Which is just such a like, no one will think of her as selfish for that act. But she kind of does still.
Yeah.
I don't know. It made me very sad, but also like, he's like, yeah, it might not be the fucking smartest decision,
but I'll do it with you anyways.
But if it'll make you feel just a little bit better, just this little bit, I will help you do that. Dorian would do it.
Yeah.
Literally anyone around her. If she asked anyone, they'd be like, yeah, let's fucking burn it to the ground. Easy. Easy, no questions. Done.
Yeah. She also ends up saying that she doesn't think that she could because she doesn't even want to have to go there. So, like, he offers to do it for her.
Yeah.
So that she doesn't even have to go because she says that, like, she ends up also saying, like, I don't even, at this point, like, there's no point in destroying it. There's no one there. There's no slaves left to save. Like, it would just be destroying the building.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I just don't even, I want to go past it and never think about it again. Like, it doesn't even exist. The tattoo, she also mentions, is like, don't remember it taking this long before. Rowan's doing something new, adding to it. And then there's also a little snippet that he's having the same tattoo done on him. Like, secretly, like, Gavriel and Lorcan, I think, have been, like, slowly tattooing it on him.
Oh, Gavriel and Fenris. Sorry, my bad.
Gavriel and Fenris?
Yeah.
It's so cute. So they're gonna match. I love that part so much.
It's so good. And then
she says,
so they have
the last bit of that one. She says, I'm glad you're here, that I'll see Endovier again for the first time with you here. And he says, I'm glad to be here too, Fireheart.
For however much longer the gods would allow it.
This is why I'm like,
pain and suffering.
So here's the thing. The next scene is also really fucking cute, which doesn't make me feel any better because she's doing a lot of really cute shit, which means fucking terrible things are gonna happen.
Every time.
So
for anyone reading Sarah J. Maas for the first time, when there's little cute things and you're like, oh my god, butterflies, everything's sweet and great and wonderful, just know the world is about to burn.
Yeah.
Every single one of her books.
Anytime you read something
cute and
you
great,
realize that you're giggling and kicking your feet,
bad.
Just immediately realize everything's about to go to hell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great.
She sandwiches us.
Yep.
The middle is always
really
bad.
A shit sandwich is for sure.
Yeah.
An expert at the literary shit sandwich.
However, our next part is Lorcan and the lead, and it's
some of the best bread I've ever had in terms of shit sandwiches.
It's so fantastic. So
good.
Essentially, Aelin and Lorcan have been sharing a tent because they love each other. However, Aelin, as we are aware, is a virgin. From the first time that they interacted and kissed, we learned that information, and that was like,
and it's like not even just
8 million years ago. It feels like.
Not even just, like, our term traditionally virgin. Like, she has not done shit. Like, she's been
that was her first, like,
in
kiss.
A tower, like, forever.
Yeah, since she was 8 years old, essentially. Like, since she was a literal child.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're in the tent. And there's this, like, note that Aelin makes in her, like, internal dialogue of, like, he always makes himself scarce anytime I have to take a bath or I have to change. He, like,
because he's
like,
respectful.
He's
to her and her alone.
Yes, true.
Just her.
Literally, just her.
Everybody else.
So it'll be like she'll say her ankle hurts, and he'll be like, okay, you need a warm bath, and like he will essentially like
set everything up,
and then be like, okay, I'm gonna go get us food. And in this scenario where he does that exact thing, he essentially is like, let me rub your foot, and like rubs her ankle and kind of works the salve into her skin to
she
like
complains about it like not feeling good.
Mm-hmm. And he is like, just let me. And so he grabs her foot, takes off her boot, starts rubbing her ankle to make it feel better. And then he's like, you need to take a warm bath, essentially. And he like puts her ankle down and is like, "Oh, I'll go get us food." And then Elid's like, "We already ate." And he's like,
fucking knows what he's doing too, because he's like rubbing her foot, and it says his thumb pushed along the arch of her foot, and Aelin indeed let out a small noise, not at the pain, but heat flared in her cheeks, grew warmer as Lorcan looked up at her beneath his lashes, a spark of mischief lighting his dark eyes. Aelin gaped a bit, then smacked his shoulder, rock-hard muscle greeting her. You did that on purpose. He, like, gets her a little worked up. Because it's one of the things that you and I, especially, in all of these books, for some reason, just love a guy who's an asshole to everybody else and then super sweet and cuddly to just one fucking person, okay? Mm-hmm. Just one. Only me. That's all I want. Mm-hmm. Asshole to everybody else, don't care. And he's just
this little tease, and you're like, oh, that's fantastic.
He's so respectful, like, he can't do anything else. He's not going to actually do anything. But he's going to torture the shit out of her, that's for fucking sure. Because it's the only way he can get his kicks.
Still holding her gaze, Lorcan's only answer was to repeat the motion. So he does it again. So good. Like,
and then distracts her. And starts, also is like, you're truly the Lady of Orynth now. Which certainly isn't going to calm down any flames that are currently happening in that tent.
Nope.
Which she's just kind of like, I don't even want it. It's like, just... What is she going to do with it? Like, she feels like there's nothing left. And he says, we can rebuild it.
Mm-hmm.
And says, Orynth will recover, from Morath sacking and all Vernon did before it. And Aelin said, that's if we win this war. And he says, Orynth will rebuild. We'll see that it's done. And she asks, have you ever rebuilt a city? And he says, no, I have only destroyed them, but I should like to try with you.
She saw the other offer there to not only build a city, but a life together.
Yes, she whispered, for however long we have. And then this is when he gets up to go, like, prep her bath.
You should soak your foot goodbye.
You should soak your foot, soak in general. I said, you work too hard. Okay, I'll go. She's like, you said I should rest more. He's like, I'm gonna go find food. She says, I already ate. Okay, you should eat more.
Giving her privacy without the awkwardness of her needing to ask for it. That's what he was trying to do. Like, every time he does it. Oh, it's just that. It's so cute. Because he's like, I would love to strip you down, but I don't want you to have to ask me to leave. So I will make myself scarce. If you don't want me to leave, then you just say the word and I will stay. Which,
don't worry. She basically fucking does. She says, I need help getting into the bath. And he says, do you now? And she bites her lip and says, I might slip. He says, a dangerous time, bath time. It's like...
Oh, it's like...
It's perfectly written. It's like exactly
cute and goofy and perfect. Like...
But also, like, I couldn't imagine it any other way. Mm-hmm. Like, it has to have this, like, joking, he's still being, like, a little rogue shit stirrer, while also making her feel as comfortable as possible in, like, not outwardly mentioning or making her feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Because if she's straight, like, it wouldn't be a lead to just straight up ask him to stay and, like, do these things.
Yep.
But he knows she wants it. So he's, like, egging it out of her a little bit until she admits it. And when she does, even if it's the slightest bit of, like, oh, I need your help.
So good.
He's like, oh, okay, do you now? You need my help? Yeah, I might slip and fall. It's so dangerous. Like, he just, like, plays up her trying to ask him to stay, which is just, oh, it's precious. So cute.
He calls her beautiful. And she says, I don't know what I'm doing. And he says, anything you do will be enough. And she says, enough for what? And he says, enough to please me. It's so cute.
His hand drifted to her hair, each stroke unbinding her braid. We only go as far and as long as you want.
Oh, it's so good. Her hands twined around his neck, and Lorcan lifted her, carrying her not to the bath, but to the cot behind him, his lips never leaving hers. Home. This, with him, this was home, as she'd never had, for however long they might share it. And when Lorcan laid her out on the cot, his breathing uneven as her own, when he paused, letting her decide what to do, where to take this, Aelin kissed him again and whispered, show me everything. So Lorcan did. And thank you, Sarah, for what is the line that has angered your entire fan base for fucking years. Because that's all you get, bitches.
So Lorcan did. Fun fact.
What did he do, Sarah?
Remember how I told
everyone would like to know.
The person I got my haircut from last,
Yep.
she had gotten a Throne of Glass tattoo.
Is it so Lorcan did? Fuck off. That's a good one.
And it was literally right here, like on her like bicep, like the lower part of her bicep. It just says so Lorcan did stacked on top of each other.
That's a good tattoo.
Uh-huh. And I went, so Lorcan did. And she goes, you're not there yet.
You're not there yet.
That's all she said
knows.
to me.
She's so fucking good.
Because I told her
Do you
we were
still
talking
go to
about
her?
it. Yeah, sometimes. I have like my no. So this is who I saw between the woman who was on maternity leave. But she is like a big Throne of Glass, like loves it. She reads a lot of fantasy, whatever.
Now I want to cancel my hair appointment at the school and go get my hair cut by her, just so that I can go talk to her about Throne of Glass the whole time.
Yeah, so I told her where I was in the book, and she was like, okay. And I was like, I saw that you got that. She got that, and then another Throne of Glass tattoo on the back of her leg, which is like Goldrin and something. Yeah,
Some
it's
text
really,
that you probably don't have full context.
There's no
for.
text, it's just image.
Okay, sick.
Yeah. But
cool. Maybe
very
it's
cool.
an image that you don't have full context for yet.
Very possible. I didn't dissect it. I didn't look at it and dissect it, which is why I can't exactly tell you.
You can't. You shouldn't look at it and dissect
I know.
anything
That's
yet.
why. I just know that it is a knife/sword of some kind.
You got 2 more weeks,
yeah,
and then we can talk about all the things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just was like, I know that it's Throne of Glass because she said that in the post, and then that's that. Yep.
You haven't looked at your late thing that I got you too closely yet either.
Nope, it's in the box.
Nope, don't look at it. Don't open it.
I opened it, looked at it, saw that it was Throne of Glass, and I went, okay.
Yep. Package that back up.
I went, some of this stuff I don't recognize fully, so I'm going to put this away and not think about it.
It is abstract-ish, so I didn't actually think about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where it's like...
If you start dissecting it, you will...
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you
which
look
is
into
why
it
I
too much,
saw
you're
it.
like, wait, is this real? Or is this, like, fan art? Don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's no text on it,
I'm
which is
at
why
the
I gave
point
it
where
to you.
I know that it's probably not, which is why I glanced and went,
I'm gonna wait.
Some of this is making me question, so I'm going to close this. Where I look at it and go, what does this mean? I'm in deep enough to try to, like, make up my own theory, which is, like, at this point probably going to just be what happens. So I was like, we're just going to not.
Put this away.
Yeah, we're just not.
Over here.
Yeah.
It's for later. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I still have a folder of memes that are for when you finish. Yeah, on Instagram.
Mm-hmm. Which is some of the things that, like, I shared where I was like, I saw the first half of it. I got to a point where, like, I was listening or reading up to what I knew, and then I was like, goodbye. Yep. I was like, post, done. I'm not looking any further.
I have 2 folders in my Instagram of, like, favorites, and one says break glass when have kids, and then the other one says break glass when cat finishes third class. Yeah, so Lorcan did. Don't know what, but we can make some assumptions, especially considering the fact that the next scene is Aelin having a bad dream, obviously.
Yeah.
Which,
of course,
this bad dream sucks ass. So much. Because the things that she sees in the dream are a woman screaming from inside a coffin, which is obviously her, and then a gate, which has a young king who's bleeding out.
So she essentially pictures herself as being trapped in this coffin. Like, the option is she is stuck and trapped forever, or Dorian dies. Like, so those are the two things she sees, essentially, from this dream. Is like, I'm either...
Or both of them together.
Forever. Yeah.
Like, that's what it's... To me, I interpret it as her worst nightmare is what, for the entire time she was trapped, was the reality of what was going to happen, which is that she was going to be forever trapped in that box, and then Dorian was going to die.
Yeah.
To save them all. And that was what was going to happen. And then she basically wakes up and is just and it's it's more of just like the same guilt that she has around, she's out now, but she hasn't found Dorian yet, so she doesn't know whether he's taken her place or not. And she has a lot of guilt around the fact that, like, he would have had to because she was trapped. And then she can't go back. She can't fall back asleep. In the morning, they're riding as a group. Rowan is with her. And this is when she finds out what the tattoo was. And he had made spread wings. They were hawk's wings across her back. So they have lunch. And then later in the day, Aelin is riding near her. And she's like, Aelin had a feeling she knew precisely why that blush bloomed there. That if she looked to where Lorcan rode, she'd find him with a satisfied, purely male smile. So good. I love this scene so much. It's Aelin and Aelin talking about the fact that they've survived. And the fact that neither of them thought that they'd see Terrasen again. And they're starting to, like, creep closer and closer. And they realize that they're probably going to make it. Aelin says, I didn't think that I'd get to see Terrasen again once Vernon took me out of Orynth. And Aelin said there was a time that I thought I'd never see it again too. And Aelin asks when you were an assassin or when you were a slave. And she said both. It was a torture of a different kind when I was at Indovir to know that home was only miles away and that I would not be able to see it one last time before I died. And Aelin says, I thought I'd die in that tower and no one would remember that I had existed. And Aelin said, we made it out in the end, though. And Aelin says, yes, we did.
So cute.
Oh, it's so good.
And as they're having this conversation, from stage left, a wyvern flies in. And of
a wild
course,
wyvern appears.
Everyone, including the rooks, are like, what the fuck is happening? We're about to be attacked. Witches. And then Dorian shoots out like a little sliver of his power. And Rowan notices and is like, do not shoot. I know that bird. Just kidding. Sorry.
Can you imagine?
It felt very much like...
To be clear, that is not what was written. No. But can you imagine if he, like, flown in as a hawk instead and Rowan was just like, I know that bird.
Imagine.
Fuck, that would be so funny.
Yeah. Blasted back the Rukin harmlessly. So, like, the Rukin were about to, like, attack him. And so he, like, pushed them back of, like, hey, I can't, I'm not gonna hurt you. But,
also,
like,
this man
like, please don't attack
uses
me.
uses his magic while he's a wyvern.
Mm-hmm.
Just gonna point that out.
Yep,
and then we can keep going. That's cool.
Not light, but ice, flickering and flashing before it turned to flame. Rowan recognized it too, roared the order to hold their fire. It was not Abraxos who landed at the crossroads, and there was no sign of Manon Blackbeak. Light flashed again, and then Dorian Havilyard stood there, his jacket and cape stained and worn. Aelin galloped down the road toward him, Rowan and Aelin beside her, the others at their back. Dorian lifted a hand, his face grave as death, even as his eyes widened at the sight of her. But Aelin sensed it then, what Dorian carried. The Wyrdkeys. All 3 of them.
Oh, fuck. That was our 1 chapter of joy and happiness and great, sweet love. So now, of course, we're going to go back to hell.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine, though. We are going back to hell, but Aedion's alive. So it's like hell-ish.
Adjacent.
You know? We're finding the silver lining in
Correct.
the hell.
Yeah. Aedion's alive. He's conscious.
Yeah.
He's healed enough.
He's being a stubborn ass.
Yeah, he's being Aedion. He wakes up and he's like, where am I? I'm
not dead yet. Gotta go back to battle.
I'm not at the wall giving orders. Like, I'm not doing the thing that I need to do. And so he gets up and he's like, boop, boop, boop. I'm gonna go to my post again. And so he hobbles, essentially, back to the wall. Ren, Lysandra, literally everyone is like, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, well, we're still fighting, are we not? I'm good enough. He splits his stitches also, which is fantastic.
Of course he did.
Because, he's Aedion. But luckily he has some fey blood in him, so he essentially heals a lot quicker than your average human. So there's that silver lining. He may have split his stitches, but a healer's right there to fix that thing, and hopefully he'll continue to heal himself over time. Yay.
I'm mentally settling in.
For just bad?
Yep. I'm mentally settling in for the fact that we have to go through this now.
Yes. So Aedion makes it back to the wall and he looks out at Lysandra. And he notices that Lysandra is no longer in the water. She is now on land fighting Vogue soldiers in a slightly different location. And because he knows she's doing something different.
Still is a dragon thing.
Yeah. But she's not.
Which is why it looks odd that she's not in the water anymore. Yeah.
Correct. So he realizes that she must know something that we do not. And so he starts calling down the line to try to figure out what Lysandra knows. Because it is very out of character for her to just go do something willy-nilly without a reason. Like, he knows her. And we know her. More than that.
Mm-hmm.
She sees, and essentially the word gets back to him, I guess, in some manner. I don't remember how they played telephone.
He realizes it based on just where she's positioned and trying to hold them from getting to.
Yeah. So the Vogue have found a rowboat of some kind, or have fashioned a rowboat of some kind, or some kind of canoe-like thing, and have put it in the river because they figured out that she had come from the castle walls through this drainage,
through the tunnels,
essentially. Yeah. So it was kind of it attached to the waterway. So they have found that there is a way in now from the water. So they are trying to get into the walls that way now. And this is her trying to stop it from happening. Mm-hmm. Aedion, of course, calls out. Go ahead.
Yeah. He basically signals to rally the 13 to help her because they can get there the fastest.
Yes.
So we end up switching to Manon's POV, and she sees him signaling that something's wrong, and signals to the river and that they're there. And Manon calls to the 13 to the wall to go defend. And Abraxos starts steering towards the city, tugging on the reins to have him fly high above the fray. Astrin's warning cry reached her a heartbeat too late. Shooting from below, a predator ambushing prey, the massive bull aimed straight for Abraxos. Manon knew the rider as the bull slammed into Abraxos, claws and teeth digging deep. Iskra Yellowlegs was already smiling. The world tilted and spun, but Abraxos, roaring in pain, kept in the air, kept flapping, even as Iskra's bull pulled back his head, only to close his jaws around Abraxos' throat. Fucking Iskra.
Iskra
so Manon,
is a literal piece of shit. We hate her.
I fucking hate her so much. Manon is panicking. Abraxos is basically like, he's trapped. Like, her wyvern has got him by the throat. He can't get out.
Yeah, Abraxos, if you remember, Abraxos originally was essentially bait dog for the other wyverns. So he was much smaller than most. He is much smaller than most. So
his
for another
is, like,
one to
speed
just
and agility and like being
cunning.
Evasive and tricky. So like there's not really anything he can do. He can't weasel his way out of the grip of the other wyvern.
Yeah. Essentially, the wyvern is like twice his size. So there's really, like, he's stuck.
Manon is panicking. She is like trying to shoot arrows at the other wyvern to kill it. She doesn't have a lot left. And he won't let go. She hits him with an arrow, like really close to his eye, and it just didn't matter. He has like a death grip on Abraxos, basically. Iskra is fucking laughing because she's a cunt, and I will use that word the entire time to describe Iskra because she deserves it. Fuck that bitch. She looks around for the 13. All of them are like in their own battles. Like she can't. There's no one to help. Manon gauged the distance to Iskra's bull to the jaws around the neck, weighed the strength of the straps on the reins. If she could swing down, if she was lucky, she might be able to slash at the bull's throat just enough to pry him off. But Abraxos' wings faltered. His tail, trying so violently to strike the bull, began to slow. Not like this. Anything but this. She starts fumbling with the saddle to try to get herself out of the saddle. She couldn't bear it, wouldn't bear it, this death, this pain and fear before it. She might have been sobbing. She might have been sobbing, might have been screaming as his wing beats faltered again. She'd leapt across the goddamned wind, She'd leap across the goddamn wind, rip that bitch from the saddle, and slit her mount's throat. Abraxos began to fall. Not fall, but dive. Trying to get lower, to reach the ground, hauling that bull with him, so Manon might survive. Please, she screamed to Iskra, carried across the battlefield, across the world, please. She would beg, she would crawl if it brought him the chance to live. Iskra only laughed, and the bull did not let go, even as Abraxos tried and tried to get them closer to the ground. She didn't care about any of it, the wastes, the Crochan, the iron teeth, her crown. She didn't care about any of it if Abraxos was not with her. Manon sized up the distance to the bull's flank, ripping off her gloves to free her iron nails as strong as any grappling hook. Manon rose in the saddle, sliding a leg under her, body tensing to make the jump ahead, and she said to Abraxos, touching his spine, "I love you." It was the only thing that mattered in the end, the only thing that mattered now. She willed her strength to her legs, to her arms, and sucked in a breath, perhaps her last. Shooting from the heavens faster than a star racing across the sky, a warring form careened into Iskra's bull. Those jaws came free of Abraxos' neck, and then they were falling, twisting. Manon had enough sense to grab onto the saddle, to cling with everything she had as the wind threatened to tear her from him. It was not Astrid. It was not any of the 13, but Petra Blueblood. And behind, the heir to the Blue Blood Witch clan, now slamming into Morath's aerial legion from where they crept onto the battlefield from high above the clouds, were the Iron Teeth. Hundreds of them. Hundreds of Iron Teeth witches and their wyverns crashed into their own.
Petra brought the fucking group to their aid. I wrote all caps, fuck yes, Petra. This is phenomenal writing. This whole section is beautiful.
Petra and Iskra pulled apart, the blue blood air flapping towards Manon, while Abraxos fought to stay upright. Even with the wind, the battle, Manon still heard Petra, as the blue blood air said to her, "A better world." I can't.
She essentially, the only thing Manon is able to tell these witches as they arrive is to the wall. Because she, in this whole scenario, she was trying to get to Aedion and to the wall to help. So she essentially sends the Iron Teeth that have come with Petra back to the wall. And Petra tells them to go. And Manon as well, along with it. And then Petra pretty much looks at Iskra and then looks back at Manon and says, "She's mine."
She
"Go,"
says,
Petra snarled. Yeah, "Go," Petra snarled. And when Manon again hesitated, Petra only said, "For Keely." Which was, if you don't remember, her wyvern. Her wyvern from the very beginning that Petra essentially killed. Or
that
did
Iskra killed.
Iskra killed. Sorry. My brain.
And Manon was the one that saved her.
Yes.
With Keely. So that she wouldn't die.
Yeah. For the wyvern Petra had loved, as Manon loved Abraxos, who had fought for Petra to her last breath, while Iskra's bull slaughtered her. So Manon nodded, "Darkness embrace you." Abraxos began soaring for the wall, his wing beats unsteady, his breathing shallow. He needed to rest, needed to see a healer. Manon glanced behind her just as Petra slammed into Iskra. The two heirs went tumbling towards the earth, clashing again, wyverns striking. In this scene, Manon notices that Petra and her wyvern are spiraling Iskra and her wyvern so aggressively that Iskra's bull cannot do a damn thing. And she makes the mental note that she must have been training specifically for this, because this isn't a technique that they know or learned at any point in time. The two heirs shot higher and higher and higher, and when they reached a place where even the wyverns could not draw enough air into their lungs, they tucked in their wings, locked claws, and plunged headfirst towards the earth. Manon saw the trap before Iskra did. Saw it the moment Petra broke free, golden hair streaming, as she drew her sword and her wyvern began to circle. Tight, precise circles around Iskra and her bull as they plummeted. So tight that Iskra's bull did not have the space to open its wings. And when it tried, Petra's wyvern was there, tail or jaws snapping. When it tried, Petra's sword was there, slashing ribbons into the beast. Iskra realized it then. Realized it as they fell and fell and fell, and Petra circled them, so fast that Manon wondered if the blue blood heir had been practicing these months, training for this very moment, for the vengeance owed to her and Keely. The world seemed to pause. "Pull out," Manon breathed. "Bank now." Petra did not. Two wyverns dropped towards the earth, dark stars falling from the sky. "Stop," Iskra barked. Petra didn't deign to respond. "Stop." Fear turned Iskra's order into a sharp cry. The ground neared, brutal and unyielding. "You mad bitch," I said, "stop." 200 feet to the earth. Then 100. Manon couldn't get down a breath. 50 feet. And as the ground seemed to rise to meet them, Manon heard Petra's only words to Iskra like they had been carried on the wind. 4 Keeley. Petra's wyvern flung out its wings, banking sharper than any wyvern Manon had ever witnessed, rising up, wingtip grazing the icy ground before it shot back into the skies, leaving Iskra and her bull to splatter on the earth. The boom rumbled past Manon, thundering through the world. Iskra and her bull did not rise again. Abraxos gave a moan of pain, and Manon twisted in her saddle, her heart raging. Iskra was dead. The Yellowlegs heir was dead. Ah! Manon and Abraxos make it to the wall, and Abraxos is being seen by healers. But Petra,
slightly before that happens, they put basically they protect the city by all of the 13, including Manon. They go and pick up these like big ass rocks and they pile them in front of the tunnel to like block it. And that's
so
like,
how they
fix it. And then they immediately book it to fucking be like, Abraxos, heal!
Yes. Abraxos is there. He's being healed. We're good.
And then they like get them, like go and get all inside because they can fly over the walls and shit, so it's fine.
Lysandra essentially makes it back to.
She shifted into a wyvern herself. Yes. Oh, fucking course she did, because she's sick as fuck. Don't worry, she can't get back through the tunnels because they're blocked now. That's fine. I will fly.
Yeah, no big deal. She, of course, is like cool. The first thing she asks, which I think is like the greatest thing ever. Meanwhile, she knows that Aedion is gravely injured, yet the first thing she says is, how is Abraxos? Which I was like, priorities. Fantastic. Also, not just one healer came. One healer was there first, but then every healer that had like magic healing went to Abraxos to save him.
I forgot. It wasn't even the healers. It was the 13. The 13 landed, Sorrel sprinting into the castle to no doubt drag a healer out. And then there were 11 pairs of hands on Abraxos' neck, staunching the flow of his blood, pressing as one to keep that precious blood inside him while the healer was found. The 13 land. Sorrel goes to find someone. Manon is obviously there. And then there's 11 left, and all 11 of them.
Yeah, Manon is like
pairs of hand.
The only person at this point holding in the bleeding from Abraxos, and then they all notice and do the same thing to like help save his life.
It fucking hurts, dude. Mm-hmm. It's so beautiful. So Lysandra sees that Abraxos is okay, and then goes to sees Aedion, asks what happened, and Ren said, Volg Prince. And Aedion rasps, he didn't walk away. And Ren says, you didn't rest long enough, you stupid bastard. You tore your stitches. Lysandra, like, tries to get him to see a healer, and he's like, I've already been healed, I'm fine, I'm out. Let's keep going. Yeah, she asks, she's like, you're hurt, you can't do anything either, because, like, Lysandra's she's not, she's been out there fighting. She's probably got some scrapes and stuff. She asks if Abraxos will live. And Manon basically just nods her head. And then
that's the only information we get that he's going to live. Is a slight nod. Just a slight, shallow nod. It says, a shallow nod. The Witch Queen's golden eyes dull.
Great.
So really yes, promising. He's gonna live?
Yep.
Question mark?
I mean, it's not a no.
Correct. It's not a no.
So I'll take it if that's all we're gonna get for now. Lysandra then tells them basically, because we all thought, okay, great, we solved the problem that Lysandra was freaking out about. Nope. No. They have the witch tower up again, and it's moving this way. I just saw it myself. The witches have gathered atop it.
They mean to blast apart the city. Yippee! And of course, Manon looks up and to find her grandmother at the top of the witch tower with said witch that's going to be sacrificed. To do the yielding. Essentially, they go and describe how this happens. So, we learned this forever ago, but a lower level witch who maybe couldn't be a rider does this as a form of sacrifice for the greater good of their witchness. And they essentially do the yielding, which is like burst of power, like the only magic that they have.
It's a big explosion.
Yeah. And as that is happening, they fall down into this tower. It reflects off all of these mirrors. It becomes magnified. A small blast becomes a large blast.
Yep.
And so
a normal yielding may take out 20, 30 witches around, maybe more if she was older and more powerful. But a yielding amplified by the power of those witch mirrors. One blast and the castle looming above them would crumble. Another blast, maybe two, and Orynth would follow it. So just like the whole, like the castle, 1, 2 more, and the whole city is gone.
Mm-hmm.
The Crocans were out trying to like break through the defenses already, and they weren't making any progress.
No. Essentially, Manon sees all of that happening, and she's like, the only people that will be able to get through that is the 13, because they are the best of the best. And so Manon is essentially like, I need another wyvern because Abraxos cannot fly. Like, I need another one. She looks to Astrid. She essentially then looks to Lysandra to transform back into a wyvern, is like, I'll ride you. And Aedion's like, abso-fucking-lutely not. And he says Lysandra it in more of like,
do it anyways.
She can't, yeah. He says it because he's like, no. And Lysandra is like, I don't have enough magic to transfer, like, to be a wyvern again. Like, essentially, she's so weak. She needs an hour. Yeah, she needs to, like, recharge. And so Manon's frantic, trying to figure out another wyvern situation. And I kind of giggled a little bit at this point, like this small little thing, because Astrid essentially, like, punches Manon in the stomach to knock the wind out of her so that all of the rest of the 13 could get on their wyverns and do it themselves and leave Manon at the wall. Because they knew she would, like, probably leap onto one of their wyverns, which I thought, honestly, true. But the way that I feel
it's so fucking perfect. It's the, like, most 13, like, Iron Teeth thing to do. Manon snaps, we have minutes. She whirled to the 13. We have trained for this, to break apart enemy ranks. We can get through them, to take apart the tower. But they all looked at one another, like they had some unspoken conversation and agreement. The 13 stalked toward their own mounts. Sorrel clasped Manon's shoulder as she passed, then climbed onto her wyvern's back, leaving Astrid before Manon. Her second, her cousin, her friend, smiled, eyes bright as stars. Live, Manon. Manon blinked. Astrid smiled wider, kissed Manon's brow, and whispered again, live. Manon didn't see the blow coming. A punch to her gut, so hard and precise that it knocked the wind out of her, sent her to her knees. She was struggling to get a breath down, to get up, when Astrid reached Nerine and mounted the blue mare, gathering the reins. Bring our people home, Manon. Manon knew then what they were going to do. Her legs failed her, her body failed her, as she tried to get to her feet, as she rasped no. But Astrid and the 13 were already in the skies.
Already in formation. That battering ram that had served them so well spearing towards the battlefield, toward the approaching witch tower. The 13 ends up sacrificing themselves to destroy the witch tower. Astrid throws a fucking dagger into Grandma, which was chef's kiss. But the, like, punch to the gut so that they can make their escape, essentially, is S-tier writing. That one. I went back because I read it, and then I went, wait a minute. Did Astrid just punch her in the stomach so that she could walk away without Manon stopping her? Because essentially, yes. It's so good.
They all, like, slowly fall one after another. And Astrid is, like, the last one who makes it through the line. Astrid rose in the saddle, freed of the buckles, a dagger in her hand, as her wyvern aimed straight for the tower. Manon's grandmother turned then, away from the pit, the acolyte about to leap inside and destroy them all. Astrid hurled her dagger. The blade flew true. It plunged into the acolyte's back, sending the witch sprawling to the stones a foot away from the drop to the pit. Astrid drew twin swords from the sheaths at her hip and slammed her wyvern into the tower. The crack of bone on rock echoed across the world. But Astrid was already leaping, already arching through the air, swords raised, wyvern tumbling away beneath, Nyrene's body broken on impact. Manon began screaming then, screaming, endless, wordless, as the thing in her chest, as her heart shattered. As Astrid landed in the witch tower's open archway, swords swinging at the witches who rushed to kill her. They might as well have been blades of grass, might as well have been mist for how easily Astrid cut them down, one after another, diving forward toward the matron who had branded the letters on stark display across Astrid's abdomen. Yeah, she also, like, fucking rips her shirt off at one point and, like, is just like, here I am, this is what you did to me. She slaughters her way towards Manon's grandmother. Astrid makes her way all the way to the witch of the Blackbeak clan. She, like, tries to get away. But Astrid was already there. It was not darkness, but light, pure, bright and pure as the sun on snow that erupted from Astrid. Light as Astrid made the yielding, as the 13, their broken bodies scattered around the tower in a near circle, made the yielding as well. Light, they all burned with it, radiated with it. Light that flowed from their souls, their fierce hearts, as they gave themselves over to that power, became incandescent with it. Astrid tackled the Blackbeak matron to the ground. Manon's grandmother little more than a shadow against the brightness, little more than a scrap of hate and memory as Astrid exploded, as she and the 13 yielded completely and blew themselves and the witch tower to smithereens.
Goodbye, witch tower. Also, unfortunately. Goodbye, 13. I wrote just crying emojis and broken heart emojis because I didn't have words, and then I said, fuck you, Sarah. It not great. Bad. And then we go back to Manon on the wall, and her and Abraxos are, like, together. She is just broken, like, kneeling, crying over herself. She wakes up to Abraxos' like
whole family
wing over her. Also, is like Abraxos is healed enough to, like, then comfort Manon, which also my heart shatters into a million pieces. And then, this yielding sent the Vogue soldiers back enough to regroup because they essentially have to regroup. So Manon
and
have
Abraxos,
no towers
left.
Yeah.
What the fuck are they gonna do?
Manon and Abraxos start to go out to the plains where everything was happening to go back, like to go over to the 13's bodies. They get there, Abraxos next to her. She's essentially kneeling on the ground. And Glennis and Bronwyn followed her. So did Petra, Aedion, Ashriver and Lysandra and Wren, Prince Gallon and Captain Rolf, Ansel of Briarcliff, Ilias and the Fey Royals, all besides them. Had she looked, she would have seen the small white flowers that they bore, would have wondered how and where they had gotten them in the dead heart of winter. Had she looked, she would have seen the people gathered behind them, so many they streamed all the way to the city gates, would have seen the humans standing side by side with the Crocans and Iron Teeth, all come to honor the 13. But Manon did not look. Even when the leaders who had come with her walked with her all this way, began to lay their flowers upon the blasted, bloodied earth. Even when their tears flowed, dropping into the ashes alongside their offerings of tribute. They didn't speak, and neither did the streaming line of people who came after them. A few bore flowers, but many brought small stones to lay on the site, those who had neither laid down whatever personal effects they could offer, until the blast site was covered as if a garden had grown from a field of blood. Glennis stayed until the end. And when they were alone on the silent battlefield, Manon's great-grandmother put a hand on her shoulder and said quietly, her voice somehow distant, "Be the bridge, be the light, when iron melts, when flowers spring from fields of blood, let the land be witness and return home." Manon didn't hear the words, didn't notice when even Glennis returned to the city looming at her back. For hours, Manon knelt on the battlefield, Abraxos at her side, as if she might stay with them, her 13, for a little while longer. And far away, across the snow-covered mountains,
you got it. You can do it.
On a barren plain, before the ruins of a once great city, a flower began to bloom. And I wrote in my notes, a flower began to bloom. Still sobbing, but yay, flower.
I don't know how many times I've read this.
I made the mistake of looking up at you. And then
I know,
voice
you looked at me and I was
crack.
like, you fucked up. Don't look at me right now.
And that's when my voice started slipping, and I was like, fuck. I was doing so good.
You started slipping just slightly before that, and that's when you looked up, and I was like, you didn't. No, I'm not saving you right now. I'm not helping this situation.
Sobbing.
It hurts every time.
It's awful.
But it's so... This one especially, like the Abraxos being injured, Petra saving them for Keeley, the 13, it all hurts. But this one is like, you cry because it's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's that like bittersweet, I love it in how painful it is, but how beautiful what their sacrifice is going to do for the rest of them.
For a better world.
A flower began to bloom. The wastes aren't going to be wastes anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's all because of the 13 and Manon. Ugh! We're not even fucking done yet.
Nope. That's just the first half.
That's the first half. So that's the first half. Yep. Now we gotta go to the second half. The second half is
anyone
also...
who's only listening and not actively reading. I didn't sob in the second half.
I was anxious as fuck in the second half.
There was a little like, yeah, I was anxious. I was nervous. There was a small part where I went, oh, fuck. There's one little spot where I went, I am sobbing. It was mostly like just a little bit of tears. This section, I was actively sobbing, Jared came out of the shower, looked at me, and went, "Oh no," and laid down in the bed next to me and just arm over. And then I finished reading this. I looked at him. He goes, "Oh, it broke you." And I went, "Uh-huh. It broke me." And just sobbing. Like,
my
kind of sobbing.
My review of this book on Goodreads is, like, specifically in reference to, like, this part. This one.
What sucks is that, like, I was having a bad mental day, and I kept telling Jared, like, I don't know, my brain is just trying to find reasons to cry. And then I read this. So, like, on top of it, my body was already like, you want to cry. And then I read the worst scene I've ever read in my life. Fantastic scene. Worst for my heart. And my brain said, here is the reason. This is number 13. This is the reason you're gonna sob. There you go.
So that's what it was. The review is actually for Empire of Storms, but it is completely relevant. Because I did the same thing when I read Kingdom of Ash. My review for Empire of Storms said, "I'd like to thank my dear husband who found me reading on the floor in a ball on our bed, and also standing in the middle of our bedroom, just walking back and forth over the last 3 hours while listening to my insane ranting as I was finishing this book. All ending with, I thought we agreed that you weren't going to finish this too close to your bedtime." We did. This is the reason I'm stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Completely relevant to what is happening here. I just remember, like, yeah, I don't think I've sobbed this hard during a book ever.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we leave that group.
Yeah, that's where we leave Aedion, Lysandra.
Just a casual, impromptu funeral, and also the wastes are not going to be wastes anymore.
Yeah. Essentially, how we always end the Aedion Lysandra section is the Vogue have taken one step back.
Yeah.
They're still attacking, but they need to regroup because we've thrown our little wrench into the mix.
We've bought time.
Yes. Essentially, we've bought another day.
We don't know if it's going to be, if it's not, maybe not going to be the 10 days that they need to fucking make it to wherever, but.
Yeah. Blew up 2 witch towers, bought another day. Exploded a witch tower, buy another day. So essentially, they're going to have 1 day of rest between the multiple days of torment and terrible.
Yep. Do we get 1 day of rest? No.
No, because we're going to go hang out with Dorian, who is seeing Chaol for the first time in so long.
Well, that's true. We get this
wonderful.
Is so perfect. Because what does Dorian do when he sees all of them? Does he start having any sort of conversation or care at all? No.
He goes straight to Chaol. He aimed as close to the head of the army as he could get, wondering which of the royals had come. Wonder if Chaol was with them, if the presence of this miraculous army meant his friend had succeeded against all odds. The rooks had spied him then, chased him, and he'd begun signaling as he neared, hoping they'd pause. He's still a wyvern at this point.
Yeah.
He lands at the crossroads. Aelin gallops to him, Rowan in a lead at her side. This is when he first realizes that, like, oh, she's not with Maeve anymore. Check. Okay, we know Aelin's alive. Dorian's now gathering all this information.
He does know because he found Maeve at the tower, at least. But, like, he knows that they're all together now.
Yes, yeah. He didn't essentially know. He also didn't know if she was lying.
True.
Really. About certain things.
I
because
don't know, he's
he
so
knew
powerful.
that there was a lot of bad. Well, he knew there was a lot of bad, and she was manipulating him the whole time. So, like, essentially, she could have also been manipulating that portion as well. Aelin asks, "Where's Manon?" And this is where Aelin gets a slight little sliver of hope because Manon is at Terrasen. So she gets the knowledge that Manon is at Terrasen. So she has this, like, slight little, like, okay. And she rallied the Crocans. Perfect. Everything went to plan. She's there with the Crocans at Terrasen. So Aelin can have, like, the little minor sliver of relief because they're at least there with Aedion. Someone with some kind of strength and power is with Aedion. So just a little bit of hope. She opened her mouth, eyes wide, but another rider came galloping down the road. The world went quiet. The approaching rider halted. Another, a beautiful woman, Dorian could only describe as golden, right behind. But Dorian stared at the rider before him, at the posture of the body, the commanding seat he possessed, and as Chaol Westfall dismounted and ran the last few feet toward Dorian, the king of Aderlin wept. Ugh! Chaol didn't hide his tears, the shaking that overtook him as he collided with Dorian and embraced his king. Also crying. Like,
how many pages?
Please.
How many fucking pages did we read to get here? Fuck. It's only like 1,800 pages we read.
Just, it's so good.
He just held his friend, his brother. Dorian said, I knew you could do it. I knew you'd find a way for all of it. He introduces his wife to
this
Dorian.
Is my wife.
She says, I've heard so much about you, Your Majesty. And Dorian says, all bad things, I hoped. She laughed. The joy on her face, the joy that Chaol knew was for both of them, made him love her all over again. I have always wanted a sister, Dorian said, and leaned to kiss Irene on either cheek. Welcome to Aderlin, lady. Then you shall be pleased to hear that you'll soon be an uncle. Dorian whirled to him. Chaol nodded, unable to find the words to convey what flooded his heart. So
this
beautiful.
Is when Dorian also tells them that he has the third word key.
Yeah. They have all the keys.
And he pretty much tells them that he snuck into Morath to get the third key. That sneaking into Morath was the easiest part. The hardest part was the fact that Maeve existed there. And, of course, we knew this because of Vernon.
We've been reading it the whole time.
Well, Aelin knows this. When I say we, I mean like Aelin. They know this because of Vernon. He lets them know that Rowan and Maeve have both survived, likely. But he collapsed Morath. And
Lorcan's response to him collapsing Morath is, well done, Lorcan said, scanning the king from head to toe. Well done indeed.
Yeah, I like
that. Lorcan's just quiet, like, oh, I'm impressed with you. Well done.
He is the only person to say anything, too. So, like, Dorian is recounting all of this stuff, and the first person to respond is Lorcan, which is also, like,
amazing.
You can tell that everyone's like, holy shit, if Lorcan's the one that says words.
Aelin let out an impressed whistle. I wish I could have seen it, she said to Dorian, shaking her head. Then she turned to Rowan. Your uncle and Essar came through then. They kicked Maeve to the curb. The Fey Prince snorted. You said your letter was strongly worded. I should have believed you. Oh my god. So, Sartak says it best. Our worst fears have been confirmed. A Vogue king and queen united. But
and that
Maeve has no power.
They also learned that Vernon didn't lie.
Or sorry, Maeve has no army.
Yeah, true.
And Vernon did not lie. He was right. It's been 3 days since Dorian left Morath as well. And now they know that Rowan had not, like, made it to Terrasen or immediately gone to Terrasen because he's been in Morath this whole time. The Iron Teeth, they're, like, basically, this is, like, just a knowledge transfer, like, right now. Basically, everybody's getting up to speed with what's going on. So, like, the Iron Teeth had made it up there. to Orynth. Not the full host, but most of them. Obviously, we know that already happened.
Mm-hmm.
And over 1,000.
Petra? Okay, hold on. Pause. Petra was the group that was at the Ferian Gap.
Yes, that's
okay.
the difference. So not the ones that were in the fight. So
when we get to Ferian Gap, my theory of hoping that the ones that left the Ferian Gap were the ones to aid Manon came true. They all went there. Because then we learned that the wyverns flew to help fight against Aedion, and I went, fuck, they went to help go against Aedion.
So then I think the group of witches that were Petra and those wyverns, that's a separate group than the group that Dorian flew with.
Correct.
Because that group was the group that was at the Ferian Gap. They left, went to go help. So there's still another unaccounted for 1,000 group of wyverns and witches that are currently on their way to Terrasen, which
so we
is
had
the group
bad
that
witches.
Dorian had flown with.
Petra shows up. Mm-hmm. Dorian, in the meantime, is flying with another group of witches from Morath.
Witches. Yep.
So, yeah. We have a lot. There's still more witches. Even though we just won against the witches. The bad witches. And we technically have a lot of witches. We have Petra and all of the Blue Bloods. And anyone that was at the Ferian Gap with them. So, fingers crossed.
So they have a choice to make now. Which, Aelin is the one to bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
We have two choices then. We continue north as fast as we can. See what there is to fight when we get to Terrasen. I might be able to bring down a good number of those wyverns. And the other option, Princess Hussar asked. Aelin's face was stark. We have the 3 Wyrdkeys. We have me. I can end this now, or at least take Rowan out of play before he can find us, steal those keys back, and rule over this world and all others. Rowan immediately starts shaking his head, but Aelin holds up a hand and says, "It's not my choice alone."
Dorian squared his shoulders. The choice is also mine. Because, of course, the two, I'm going to sacrifice myself. People in this story.
No, me.
No, you have to live. No, you have to live. So, essentially, that's what they do.
Because then Aelin says, you retrieve the 3rd key, your role is done. You did your job. You're fine. And he says, like hell it is, the same blood, the same debt flows in my veins. And then they argue about who's more eager to die.
Yeah, so the two of them argue while Rowan is pissed because Aelin wants to sacrifice herself and Chaol is pissed because Dorian wants to sacrifice themselves. And at some point, they make eye contact and choose not to say anything, which I think is the probably greatest decision those two men have ever made.
She says they're going to put it to a vote.
Mm-hmm.
A vote. Rowan had never heard of anything so absurd. Of course.
Of course not.
They put it to a vote. And Aelin counts all of the votes first before voting herself. Because of course she does.
Yeah. Well, she leaves the last vote up to Rowan because she already knows what he's going to say. She also knows at that point that his vote is outnumbered, even with her vote being outnumbered. She would like to go to Terrasen and fight, and Rowan would like more time.
Not that she says any of that.
No.
Because she ends up saying later, well, if I had voted and let them know, then it would have swayed their decision. And Rowan's like, you have a right to sway their decision a little bit because you're the one sacrificing yourself. She's like, nope, that's not what I'm going to do.
She essentially says that she would have liked to see Terrasen again.
Yes.
And that is the point of contention for her wanting to be able to go and fight at Orynth, was more so that she could see Terrasen again and see Aedion and kind of the rest of everyone. And so she knew that reasoning, not the reasoning of, oh, well, I can help destroy that army because they were very able to do that. They wanted to look at just the facts of like, can you destroy the army without me?
Yeah, and they do that like while they're kind of trying to figure out the vote and like how people are going to vote. They do run through like a couple of other ideas. I mean, they still argue back and forth about like whether it's Dorian or Aelin, and Aelin is like, absolutely fucking not. It's me or it's nobody. Mm-hmm. They talk about Rowan is like, well, let's hide the keys again. He lost them for thousands of years. We can do it again. He pointed to Irene. She could destroy him all on her own. That is not an option, Aelin growled. Irene is with Chaol. Irene, of course, says, I can do it. If there's a way, I could do it. See if the other healers could help. And Aelin says there will be Vogue by the thousands for you to destroy or save Lady Westfall. Erewhon could slaughter you before you even get the chance to touch him. And Irene says, why are you allowed to give up your life for this and no one else?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Irene.
Aelin says, I'm not the one carrying a child within me.
Also kind of Irene's fault, but...
Also kind of... Well, it's not... That part's not Irene's fault. She wouldn't have... Bitch, she's using the child as an easy excuse. We all know that Aelin would have come up with some other bullshit as to why Irene can't fucking help.
Yeah. At this point, Dorian is like, I should do it. Chaol says no. And then Fenris gets mad in this scenario where I'm like, Fenris, shut the fuck up.
Fenris,
you'd rather my queen die than your king? Chaol stiffened. I'd rather neither of my friends die. I'd rather none of this happen. Which, I'm like, Fenris, come on. Like, you should know that.
Such a good response to Fenris' stupid question.
Yeah. I was like, Fenris, shut up. Yeah. Awful.
Irene is still, like, pushing that Erewhon can be stopped. Without the keys, they can stop him.
They do also pose a question, which I did not think about at all, because I kind of forgot about the gods being a thing in this scenario, because I was just like, fuck them all. Like, I've written off the gods. I said fuck them because they're awful.
They suck.
Yeah. But Irene asks the question, well, like, what happens about Silba, the god of healing? Because essentially, which we learn, like, at the very beginning, that, which I've kind of forgot and, like, put to the back of my brain, is, like, essentially, they are closing off. They're sacrificing themselves to lock all of the gates between worlds. And that includes the gate between the world that the gods are in, which is how, like, Irene prays to the god of Silva to help her. Like, Lorcan has the god of death. I don't know what the fuck his name is. But they all have, like, a little tie to a god, a different tie. There's also the god of Aneth that talks to Aelin. Yeah. And so they pose the question of, like, well, if we lock them behind this gate, does that mean we no longer have access to them and their power? Like, does that mean all the healers also don't have access? So coming from a different point, they pose the question of, if Irene no longer has her power, can we still beat the Vogue? And so that's also a point of contention.
Because they're not sure. Their gods, the gods that are the Cognates gods, and that includes Silba, are different gods than the gods that, like, Aelin knows she's dealing with. Mm-hmm. Which, like, she knows that they're separate, but if they close all of the worlds, like, they're not 100% sure if that's, like, are they part of this world then, or are they in a different world and then it's going to cut them off as well?
Because essentially...
Which is an interesting...
So Lorcan has power because he's Fae.
Yep.
And his power just happens to come from the lineage.
From his bloodline. Yes. It's different than gifted power.
Yeah. And yeah, that's what I'm just trying to say.
Which would have been like blessed power or whatever.
Yeah,
I just
essentially Dorian, it all comes from their Fae bloodline.
Yeah.
Irene has power because she's blessed from the god, like, Silba. And that her bloodline is blessed with power versus the power being, like, the god related directly to the god itself.
Yeah.
So that comes up the question of, like, well, if we lock all these gods away, does it also take away my ability to heal with this power? Or any of the other healers' ability to heal with that power? I don't know. It's a good question. I didn't think about it. until they said it. And I went, wait a minute. Oh, that's right. We're locking away the gods. We should
probably think about that.
We should really think. Thank you, Irene. That's a very good point. She's like, I can't heal Erewhon if my powers disappear. Or banish Erewhon if my powers are gone. So, yeah. Not great.
So they all vote. And they vote. The large majority is in favor of doing it now. Hussar votes to do it now. Dorian votes to do it now.
Chaol also votes to do it now.
Chaol also votes to do it now. Rowan, who she says is voting last. You're last, Rowan. He says, I vote no, not now, not ever. And Chaol says, it's decided then. Dorian finishes, at dawn the lock will be forged and the keys go back into the gate. Aelin asks softly, what is your vote, Aelin? And she says, it doesn't matter. So, after the vote, they basically all set up camp. Rowan made them set up their royal tent, their royal bed, which made my heart hurt. Mm-hmm. And then they argue.
Oh, yeah.
So surprised.
Which, to be fair, Rowan had said a million times, we should find a way that you don't have to do this.
Yeah.
And then Aelin has pretty much figured out there is no way that I can't do this. And Rowan's like, hey, well, then I'm going with you. And she's like, that's not an option. And he's like, the fuck it isn't. You think I'm going to live here after you perish? Not a fucking chance in hell.
He's pissed too, because it's like, when have you ever accepted your own fate just in your life? This is the thing you're going to accept? And she basically, they see it very differently, because she sees it as she's been gifted with 20 years that she wasn't supposed to have. Mm-hmm. And Rowan's like, fuck that. I've been tortured with 20 years when I should have an infinite amount. Mm-hmm. And they still argue about Dorian and not. And she ultimately is, I won't allow him to sacrifice himself in my stead. Why? Because he is my friend, and I won't be able to live with myself if I let him go. He said he would do it, Aelin. He doesn't know what he wants. He's barely emerging from the horrors he endured. And you aren't? Rowan challenged. Wholly unfazed. He's a grown man. He can make his own choices. We can make choices without you lording over them. That's when he says that they'll do it together.
Rowan pretty much says to her, let me find another way. I will find another way, Aelin. And she responds, there's no other way. Don't you understand all of this? All of this has been kept to keep you alive, all of you. With you as the asking price to atone for some lingering guilt. Do you think I want to die? Do you think any of this is easy? To look at the sky and wonder if it's the last I'll see? To look at you and wonder about those years we won't have? I don't know what you want, Aelin. You haven't been entirely forthcoming. I want it to be over. One way or another, I want this to be done. He shook his head. I know, and I know what you went through. That those months in Doranel were hell, Aelin. But you can't stop fighting. Not now. This is when she admits that she held on so long under Maeve's grasp, essentially, not for herself, but for this purpose. I held on for this so I can put the keys back in the gate When Cairn ripped me apart, when Maeve tore away everything I knew, it was only remembering that this task relied upon my survival that kept me from breaking, knowing that if I failed, all of you would die. Her voice
It's really
breaking.
heartbreaking.
It's awful.
Because it's like you realize that this whole time it has not been like a will to live or to overcome. But it's just been like acceptance of, I have no choice but to live through all of this because I have this task that I need to complete.
I thought I could escape it just for a moment, and as soon as I did, the gods brought Dorian sweeping right back into my path. Tell me that's not intentional. Tell me that those gods, or whichever forces might also rule this world, aren't roaring that I should still be the one to forge the lock. Rowan just stared at her for a long moment. Then he said, "What if those forces didn't lead Dorian into our path so you alone might pay the debt? I don't understand. What if they brought you together to not pick one or the other, but to share the burden with each other?" Even the fire in the brazier seemed to pause. Rowan's eyes glowed as he blazed ahead. The day that you destroyed the glass castle, when you joined hands, your power, I'd never seen anything like it. You were able to meld your powers to become one. If the lock demands all of you, then why not give half? Half of each of you, when you both bear Mala's blood. We don't know if it will work. It's better than walking into your own execution with your head bowed. How could I ever ask him to do it? Because it is not your burden alone, that's why. Dorian knows this, has accepted it, because the alternative is losing you. I would go in your stead if I could. Her own heart cracked, I know. I wanted that 1,000 years with you, she said softly. I wanted to have children with you. I wanted to go into the afterworld together. Then fight for it. One more time, fight for that future. And then the next scene is Aelin waking Dorian up, saying, I need to ask you to do something. And so...
What if we forge the lock together?
Mm-hmm.
And she says, I'm sorry to even ask you. And he says, I'm sorry I didn't think of it. Because Dorian's fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Of course he says yes.
Yeah, obviously.
And then she says, we do it now before the others, before goodbyes. She only asked, do you want Chaol to be there? He thought about saying no, thought about sparing his friend from another goodbye, when there was such joy on Chaol's face, such peace. But Dorian still said yes.
Chaol's his family.
Yeah. I'm glad that he says yes. Like, he does the selfish thing and does it for himself, which I think is great. I also, Chaol would be pissed.
Oh, 100%.
He'd be fucking pissed.
The thing is, I think they've all accepted this, and I think Chaol is the kind of person that doesn't like... He does a lot of things on his own, of, like, trying to protect those around him, but he would not be okay with Aelin just sacrificing herself alone, or Dorian just sacrificing himself alone. I think the reason he's okay with this scenario is even if they both end up dying because of this, they were together. Like, I think that was what kind of made me feel a little bit better. I was like, even if they both die, essentially, till the very, very end, they are together.
With each other.
Yeah, they're not alone.
Yeah.
Which kind of made me feel a little bit better. So of course, where do they do this? They go to Endovier.
Okay, honestly, though, storytelling-wise, fantastic choice.
Yeah.
Love it. It's all gonna end where it all began. Fucking
Yeah.
yes. Great.
Literally, they walk into Endovier, and I don't remember if it was Chaol or Dorian. Oh, Dorian says this. I never thought we'd see this place again, Dorian murmured. Certainly not like this. None of the king's steps faltered, his face somber as he gripped Damaris's hilt, ready to meet whatever awaited them. In the moonlight, Chaol's face was pale. What do you need us to do? Just be here. That is enough. So they get to Endovier. She left Goldrin in her tent because she assumed there was little use for it in this process. So she left it there. There is the note that Dorian still has Damaris at his side.
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially they create 2 word marks on the ground with their blood. An open and a close. Lock, unlock.
Large enough for them to like be standing in.
Correct, yes. So that the 2 of them can stand together. They slice their palms. Well, they say their goodbyes. Well, Rowan is like, so no big farewell. And she's like, no. We don't do that here.
Also, all Chaol and Dorian do is just hug.
Yes.
They hug, the 2 of them speaking too quietly for Aelin to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And then Aelin is like, it's too dramatic. Can't do that.
Yeah, even for me. Rowan tipped
Rowan
her
still says,
head back. Even when you're there, he said, his green eyes so bright under the moon. I am with you. He laid a hand on her heart. Here, I am with you here. She laid her own hand on his chest and breathed in his scent, as I am with you always. Rowan kissed her. I love you. He whispered into her mouth, come back to me. Then Rowan retreated just beyond the unfinished marks. Then, of course, Dorian drew out the 3 word keys, one of which is in the necklace, the amulet of Orynth, and she kind of makes note of like it's still in the like thing, and Dorian says, I thought you might be the one who wished to open it. Just a quiet little like, since it's of your like lineage.
Yeah.
She traced her finger over the word marks on the back, the runes that spelled out her hateful face. Nameless is my price. Written here all this time for so many centuries. A warning from Brannon and a confirmation. Their sacrifice, her sacrifice. Brannon had raged at those gods, had marked the amulet and laid all those clues for her to one day find so she might understand, as if she could somehow defy this fate. A fool's hope. Aelin turned the amulet back over, brushing her fingers along the immortal stag on the front. Borrowed time. It had all been borrowed time. She opens it. This is the worst part, I think, of this whole thing for me, visually. So, they join their powers together. They slice their hands to make the word marks for the blood. They then hand. So they learn that from the fact that Kaltain had the little rock in her arm, and then this other lady had the rock in her arm, that essentially she has to become the lock. And so she slices her arm and puts the 3 word keys into her arm. And then they hold hands to like put their power together. And then from Rowan's point of view, the 2 of them like become statues, like ice still, essentially.
Yeah.
And he says he feels the bond between him and Aelin going taut because she is like getting further away from him, even though she's still standing right there. And then he notes that the keys dissolve in her arm, which is the the worst visual thing that I ever needed in my life. I said, what the fuck?
Blood.
Dissolved? Why? Why did it have to be that process? I don't like it. As Aelin is kind of in this trance state, we don't really know what's going on. All Rowan knows is that the mating bond between them is being, like, shredded apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
doesn't feel good.
He is kind of, like, on the ground, in just a large amount of pain, hand on chest. He essentially, all the magic inside of him just, like, latches on to the mating bond to try to, like, hold it in place so it doesn't break. Ugh. It's awful. They're in this weird, so Dorian and Aelin is in this weird, like, misty state, which was similar to when, like, Manon and Aelin went through the mirror. They were in this weird, like, they didn't know their bodies.
In between.
Yeah, they're in the in between. Aelin, like, knows that she's in her body, but she doesn't, like, it keeps, like, repeating, like, I am Aelin Galathinius, like, I am Aelin, I am Aelin, like, this is my purpose, this is what we're doing here. They're kind of in, like, a weird, like, why are we here? What's happening? They
describe it as entering the true word gate. Like, they're literally in that in-between between where they actually are and where they could step into to go. Mm-hmm. And they are in so much pain. They are feeling their magic, like, slowly getting ripped away from them. Mm-hmm. And that is what they describe it as feeling like, is their magic being ripped out of them.
A well running dry forever.
Yeah. Aelin was sobbing. Dorian was sobbing as their magic tore out of them. Soon, the lock would take everything. That final destruction would be the most brutal and painful of all. Would the gods make them watch as they claimed Elena's soul? Would he even have the chance, the ability to try to help her? As he had promised Gavin, he knew the answer. Stop. Dorian heard the words and for a heartbeat did not recognize the speaker, until a man appeared from one of those impossible yet possible doorways. A man who looked of flesh and blood as they were, and yet shimmered at his edges. His father. His father appears and says stop to the two of them. And Aelin responds, this cannot be stopped. And he says, I know what has begun cannot be halted. And Dorian realizes that he accidentally summoned his father with Damaris. Mm-hmm. And he says, his father lifted his hands in supplication. My boy, he only breathed. His father looks to Aelin and says, let me do this. Let me finish this. What? The words snapped from Dorian. You were not chosen, Aelin said, though the coldness in her voice faltered. Nameless is my price, the king said. Aelin went still. Nameless is my price, his father repeated. The warning of an ancient witch, the damned words written on the back of the amulet of Orynth. For the bastard-born mark you wear, you are nameless. Yet am I not so as well? He glanced between them, his eyes wide. What is my name? This is ridiculous, Dorian said through his teeth. Your name is... But where there should have been a name, only an empty hole existed. You, Aelin breathed. Your name is... How is it that you don't have one? That we don't know it? Dorian's rage slipped, and the agony of his magic, his soul, shredded from him, becoming secondary, as his father said. Erewhon took it, wiped it from history, from memory. An ancient, terrible spell, so powerful it could only be used once. All so I might be his most faithful servant. Even I do not know my name, not anymore. I lost it. Nameless is my price, Aelin murmured. Dorian looked then at the man who had been his father, truly looked at him. I want to hate you, Dorian said. I know, his father said. You destroyed everything. I'm sorry for all of it, Dorian. He has this really sweet moment where, like, he realizes that, like, his dad is not really the person that he should hate.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, like, everyone else. Morath and everything that happened with Morath and Rowan. And his father says, let me pay this debt. Let me do this. Does Mala's blood not flow through my veins as well? You do not have magic like we do, Aelin said. I have enough, just enough in my blood, to help. Dorian glanced over his shoulder towards the archway that opened to Aurelia to home. Then let him, he said, though the words did not come out with the iciness he wished, only heaviness and exhaustion. Aelin said softly to his father, I had planned to before it got to the end. Then you will not be alone now. I am grateful I got to see you again one last time. Looking at Dorian. Dorian had no words, couldn't find them, not as Aelin turned to him, tears sliding down her face as she said, one of us has to rule. Before Dorian could understand, before he could realize the agreement she just made, Aelin ripped her hand from his and shoved him through the gateway behind them, back into their own world. Roaring, Dorian fell. As the Wyrdgate's misty realm vanished, Dorian saw Aelin take his father's hand. Dorian goes back through the fucking Wyrdgate and basically, like, slams into Rowan and Chaol.
Yeah. So, picture two of them, statue-like.
Statues.
And the only thing that, like, Chaol and Rowan see is Dorian getting, like, yeeted from the, and like, word marks.
Hours.
Yes.
They've been standing there for hours.
Uh-huh. So Dorian just gets, like, blasted back, essentially, and, like, comes to. And is like, what the fuck is happening? Where am I? Kind of thing. And that was the moment that Rowan realized that Aelin had lied.
He's never going to come back.
And she wasn't coming back.
Because Dorian starts screaming no. And, like, tries to get back into the circle. But he had already left the circle that had been drawn. So he can't get back to her.
Yeah.
And Chaol,
of course, is asking what happened.
And he tells them that, like, his dad showed up. And that she and him are going to end it.
Yeah, he said, it wasn't enough, the two of us together. It would have destroyed us both, Dorian wept. Yet Damaris somehow summoned my father, and he took my place. He offered to take my place, so Dorian lunged, reaching for Aelin's hand. But he'd left the ring of word marks. They now kept him out. She and him, they're going to end it, Dorian said, shaking. Rowan barely heard the words. He should have known that if their plan failed, Aelin would never willingly sacrifice a friend, even for this, even for her own future.
She had lied. His Fireheart had lied. And he would now watch her die. Back in the Wyrdgate with Aelin and Dorian's dad, who has no name.
Dad. Just dad.
The king with no name.
Yes. Which was, I literally texted her being like, I have been saying this from the very beginning, that it's fucking weird he doesn't have a name. At no point did my brain put together, nameless is my price.
I did. Even though you did keep bringing it up, and I just had to sit there and be like, that's interesting. That's an interesting thing you thought of. That's cool. Mm-hmm. And then you get to the nameless shit, and I'd be like,
she might figure it out.
Keep going. Then we just go past it. And I'm like, okay.
the second they said it was a bastard's mark, I wrote off the nameless portion.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair because it says you go through all the nameless stuff and it feels like the story's driving you in one direction to make a conclusion. And then it's like, haha, just kidding. It was a red herring. And then you're like, oh, okay, this was like meant to lead me astray the whole time.
And then
sort of
still, so
for part
essentially it was like king with no name, nameless is my price. We're trying to figure all this stuff out. And I was like, the king is the only person that doesn't have a name. King. This is really fucking weird that he doesn't have a name. Why does he not have a name? Why doesn't he have a name this whole time? And then it gets to the like, well, she has this bastard's mark on her head, which is the nameless is my price. And I was like,
nameless.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess technically it doesn't matter that he doesn't have a name. So then I wrote off the fact that he doesn't have a name. Yet every time I was like, the fucking King of Otterland, because he has no name. And here, King of Otterland with no name. It's just like, the nameless king's power was nothing compared to Dorian's. Of course not. Dorian's really fucking strong.
So they're in there, and this is like her internal dialogue, that like she had planned to send him back either way. Even if his dad hadn't showed up, she had planned to send him back through when it felt like it was getting close to the end.
Yeah.
And she says, payment for 10 years of selfishness, 10 years away from Terrasen, 10 years of running. Which breaks my heart that she thinks that she in any way deserves this. This is fucking Darrow's fault, okay? I'm still gonna blame it on Darrow. Fuck you, Darrow. This is why, you bitch. And the king says, soon now. She found the man smiling. I was given a message for you, he said softly, his edges blurred as the last of his power drained away. But he still smiled, still looked at peace. Your parents they're so proud of you. They asked me to tell you that they love you very much. He was nearly invisible now, his words little more than a whisper of wind, and that the debt has been paid enough, Fireheart. And then he was gone, the last of him flowed into the loch, wiped from existence. She barely felt the tears on her face as she fell to her knees, as she gave and gave her magic, her very self. My name is Aelin Ash River Galith. A choked scream tore out of her as the last of the loch sealed, as the loch became forged once more, as real as her own flesh, as Aelin's magic completely vanished. She could barely move, barely think. Gone, where light and life had flown through her, there was nothing, not an ember, only a droplet, just one, of water. She clung to it, shielded it as they appeared, 12 figures through the portal behind her, filtering into this place of places, this crossroads of eternity. It is done then. Summon us our world girl, and let us go home at last. So all these fucking gods show up, and they're like, finally, you silly human fae person, send us back. Now. We've waited for so long.
Mm-hmm.
They're all being bitches. And Deanna is there, and she says, enough of this. Like, do the thing that you were here for. Let's go. And Aelin says, I should like to make a bargain with you. You dare ask for a bargain? And one of the other gods says, I would hear it. Aelin asks for a trade. She, before you fulfill your end, a trade. She asks to trade Erewhon and Elena. Because the gods had agreed to take Erewhon with them when they left and destroy him.
Yeah.
That was like the thing they were going to do for her if she lets them go back to their home. Like she does this to go back.
Yeah.
Aelin asks.
Part of that is they would then crush Elena's soul so she cannot live in the afterlife.
Yeah.
Essentially.
That was all gonna, like, that, because that was her punishment. Her punishment was that she was going to be wiped from existence, and that they would take Erewhon if they had done all of these things.
Yeah.
Aelin asks to leave Erewhon and Aurelia for them to deal with, but in exchange, leave Elena as well. So the gods
she
wouldn't have to worry
afterlife.
about dealing with Erewhon. They're like, she's like, we'll deal with it, but you have to leave Elena here as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Elena is devastated and sobbing that Aelin would try to do this. And Aelin says the debt has been paid enough. And the gods start to consider it. And Elena is begging them, don't do it, don't agree to it. Of course, because like she's scared that Erewhon's not going to get defeated, that she's going to stay there and Erewhon's still going to win. And Aelin pleads with them, leave her be and go. Elena smiled. You bought me that extra time so I might live. Let me buy this for you. Deanna laid her hands on either side of Elena's face. I had hoped for this. Then she pressed her hands together, Elena's head clasped between them. A flare of light from Mala, a warning and pain as Elena's eyes went wide and Deanna squeezed. And then Elena ruptured into 1,000 shimmering pieces that faded as they fell. Aelin's scream died in her throat, her body unable to rise. As Deanna wiped her ghostly hands and said, we do not make bargains with mortals, not any longer. Keep Erewhon, if that's what you wish. The goddess strode through the archway into her own world. Aelin stared at the empty place where Elena had been only heartbeats before. Nothing remained, not even a shimmering ember to send back to the afterworld, to the mate left behind. Nothing at all.
Essentially, the gods said, fuck you, keep Erewhon, we're still gonna kill off Elena. And then
you've done what we wanted already, we're just gonna go.
So Erewhon is going to stay in Aurelia, not go with them behind the gate. Perfect, cool, awesome, wonderful. Love that. I wrote, what
outside
the actual
of the gate.
Fuck, please.
Yep. We hate the gods. More than we did fucking 2 chapters ago.
Yeah, I was already annoyed by them not, like, doing anything or willing to help at all.
They fucking suck.
Mm-hmm.
In the not
in Aurelia,
Rowan fucking not feeling good. The mating bond is fucking destroying him. And he feels like shit. The mating bond was breaking, and there was nothing he could do but hold on. And then we go back to the Word Gate, where the gods are just fucking slowly walking their way out. They're like, all right, we're good. We're gonna go now.
Yeah, now close the door behind us and lock it. Thanks.
Mala goes up to her and says, seal the gate, Firebringer. But the Lady of Light still hesitated. And from far away, Aelin heard another woman's voice. Make sure they are punished someday, every last one of them. They will be, she'd sworn to Kaltain. They had lied, had betrayed Elena and Aurelia, as they believed themselves betrayed. Their green, sun-drenched world rippled away ahead. Groaning, Aelin climbed to her feet. She was no lamb to slaughter, no sacrifice and an altar of the greater good. And yet she was not done yet. Aelin met Mala's burning stare. Do it, Mala said quietly. Aelin looked past her toward the pristine world they had sought to return to for so long, and realized Mala saw the thoughts in her own head. You aren't going to stop me? Mala only held out a hand. In it lay a kernel of white-hot power, a fallen star. Take it, one last gift to my bloodline. She could have sworn Mala smiled, for what you offered on her behalf, for fighting for her, for all of them. Aelin staggered the few steps to the goddess, to the power she offered in her hand. I remember, Mala said softly, and the words were joy and pain and love. I remember. Aelin took the kernel of power from her palm. It was the sunrise contained in a seed. When it's done, seal the gate and think of home. The marks will guide you. Aelin blinked, the only sign of confusion she could convey, as the power filled and filled and filled her, melding into the broken parts of empty spaces. Mala held out her hand again, an image formed within of the tattoo across Aelin's back. A tattoo of spread wings, the story of her and Rowan, written in the old language amongst the feathers. A flick of Mala's fingers and symbols rose from it, hidden within the words, the feathers. Word marks. Rowan had hidden word marks in her tattoo, had inked word marks all over it. A map home, Mala said, the image fading, to him. I want to cry.
Rowan word marked her. He suspected somehow that it might come to this, had asked her to teach him so he might make this gamble. And when Aelin looked behind her to the archway into her own world, she indeed could feel them. As if the word marks he'd secretly inked onto her were a rope, a tether home. A lifeline into eternity. One last deceit. Another voice whispered past them, a fragment of memory spoken on a rooftop in Rifthold. What if we go on, only to more pain and despair? Then it is not the end. That power flowed and flowed into Aelin, her lips curved upward. It was not the end, and she was not finished. To a better world, Mala said, and walked through the doorway, into her own. A better world. The Lady of Light halted and lifted an arm in farewell. Aelin smiled and bowed. Far out, striding over the hills, the gods paused. Aelin's smile turned into a grin, wicked and raging. It did not falter as she found the world she sought, as she dipped into that eternal, terrible power. She had been a slave and a pawn once before. She would never be so again. Not for them, never for them. The gods began shouting, running toward her, as Aelin ripped open a hole in their sky, right into a world she had seen only once, had accidentally opened a portal into one night in a stone castle. Distant, baying howls cracked from the bleak gray expanse, a portal into a hell realm, a door now thrown open. Aelin was still smiling when she closed the archway into the gods' world and left them to it, the sounds of their outrage, frightened screams ringing out. She opened a portal to hell and then closed the door and locked him inside.
Thank fuck. I'm so glad that your beautiful green luscious landscape is now filled with fucking demons from hell, you vile sacks of shit. Also, Mala, you're goddamn the best. I love you so much. There's still one task, to seal the gate forever. Because of course we can't be fucking done yet.
Yep. Lock, close, seal. She willed it and willed it to close as she offered over her power. But not that last bit of self. The debt had already been paid enough. A map home, a map inked in the words of universes would lead the way. More and more and more, but not all. She would not give it up, her innermost self. She would not surrender. They would not take this lingering kernel of her. She would not yield it. Light flowed through the lock, fracturing like a prism, shooting to all those infinite doorways, closing and sealing and shutting them. They would not destroy her. They would not be allowed to take this. Come back to me. More and more. They would not win. They couldn't take it, couldn't have her. She refused. A better world with no gods, no fates, a world of their own making. Aelin bellowed and bellowed, the sound ringing out across all worlds. They would not beat her. They would not get to take this most essential kernel of herself, of soul. Her kingdom, her home, she would see it again. It was not over. Aelin's hand drifted to her heart and rested there. It is the strength of this that matters, her mother had said long ago. Wherever you go, Aelin, no matter how far, this will lead you home. This will lead you home. The archway to Aurelia, inched closed, world walker, wayfarer. Others had done it before. She would find a way home. No longer the queen who was promised, but the queen who walked between worlds. She would not go quietly. She was not afraid. So Aelin ripped out her power, ripped out a chunk of what Mala had given her, a force to level a world, and flung it towards the lock. The final bit, the last bit, and then Aelin leaped through the gate. She was falling back to Aurelia.
The word gate sealed behind her, and yet she was not home. As it closed, all worlds overlapped, and now she fell through them. One after another, worlds of water, worlds of ice, worlds of darkness. She slammed through them faster than a shooting star, faster than light. Home. She had to find home. There were so many worlds, all of them miraculous, all of them so precious and perfect, that even as she fell through them, her heart broke to see them. As she's falling through all of these worlds, she's searching for her tether back to Rowan. And at one point, she realizes she's going too fast. She is, she's going so fast, she falls into her world, she goes splat.
Yeah.
So she's panicking.
That or she'd fall past it.
Or if she go too fast, she'd go past it.
Mm-hmm.
She tries to slow. She passed through an ocean, a world of oceans with no land to be seen. Home was so close she could nearly smell the pine and snow if she missed it, if she passed it. She passed through a world of snow-capped mountains under shining stars, passed over one of those mountains where a winged male stood beside a heavily pregnant female, gazing at those very stars. Fae. They were Fae, but this was not her world. She flung out a hand as if she might signal them, as if they might somehow help her, when she was nothing but an invisible speck of power. The winged male, beautiful beyond reason, snapped his head toward her as she arched across the starry sky. He lifted a hand as if in greeting. A blast of dark power, like a gentle summer night, slammed into her. Not to attack, but to slow her down. A wall, a shield that she tore and plunged through, but it slowed her. That winged male's power slowed her just enough. Aelin vanished from his world without a whisper, and there it was. There it was, the pine and snow, the sneaking spine of the mountains up her continent, the tangle of Oakwald to the right, the wastes to the left, a land of many people, many beginnings. She saw them all familiar and foreign, fighting and at peace in sprawling cities or hidden deep within the wilds. So many people revealed to her. Aurelia. She threw herself into it, grabbed the tether, and bellowed as she hauled herself toward it, down it. Home, home, home. It was not the end. She was not finished. She willed the world to halt, just as the word gate slammed shut with a thunderous crack, all other doors with it, and Aelin plunged back into her own body.
Meanwhile, similar to Dorian just like fucking yeeting out of the word marks, Aelin hits her body and her body just like crumbles to the ground. Because she just had all of her power sucked from her, literally. Rowan thinks that this is it. She's dying. These are going to be her last breaths. But then he felt it. As the sun rose, he felt it, that surge down the frayed mating bond, a blast of heat and light that welded the broken strands. He didn't dare to breathe, to hope, even as Aelin collapsed to her knees. A heartbeat echoed in his ears, into his own soul, and that was her chest rising and falling, and those were her eyes opening slowly. The scent of Dorian and Chaol's tears replaced the salt of Endovier as Aelin stared up at Rowan and smiled. I came back, she rasped. She was warm, but cold somehow, a stranger in her own body. She sat up, groaning, and then Dorian asked, "What happened?" Aelin cupped her palms behind her. A small lick of flame appeared within them, and then nothing. It's gone. The power. Only an ember remains. Essentially, she comes back and tells them everything. Hey guys, so Samala, I did the
So
thing.
what happened
Opened
was...
hell. Yeah. I maybe stirred the pot a little because, my little inner Selena showed up and
it's
went.
Fine though, because they can't
Portal
come
to
back.
hell. Closed
So
gate.
Fuck them.
So there is a portal to hell.
We have
in
to
this
deal with
place now.
Erewhon ourselves.
Yeah. Erewhon's still here. They still killed Alina. I tried to make a thing. Didn't work. Mala liked the fact that I tried to make a bargain for Alina's life. She gave me a little bit more power, which saved my life. However, now I'm immortal.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
So that was the cost. The last cost. Her human life, her mortality burned away, turned to nothing but dust between worlds. There would be no more shifting, only this body, this form. She still has her mother's gift. Mm-hmm. Perhaps it had been a final gift of Mala's too, to preserve this piece of her that now formed in her hand, this droplet of water. What Aelin had saved until the end, had not wanted to part with until the very last dregs of her were given to the lock to the Wyrdgate. Aelin held out her other hand. The kernel of flame sputtered to life within it. An ordinary gift. A firebringer no more, but Aelin all the same.
So Aelin has no power.
She has, normal people magic. Basically the king, I guess, of what he was talking about. She still has some stuff. But it's
she still has a little... But she's not...
She's a magic fae, but she's not,
she's not going to be able to defeat Erewhon with her fire. That's for sure. But it's okay. Dorian
also,
still
have
has...
to defeat... Yeah.
Dorian has his stuff. Dorian can get into Maeve's brain, though, so... Honestly, if he could do it again, he could just pluck all that shit. Just... Doop, doop, doop. Dorian is the key to fighting Erewhon. I have been thinking that since the castle broke. I've been thinking that Dorian is the key. And I'm like, Dorian is definitely more important than we're giving him credit. Aelin is taking his main stage energy, main character energy, and Dorian's just like, I'm just over here minding my business.
I mean, I like the fact that she now... It's she keeps saying, this is the thing that I was made for. This has been my whole purpose this whole time. I do like the idea of now, great, yep, you did your thing. Now everybody else has to pull the weight in the last, 200 pages?
Mm-hmm.
This is the last 200 pages.
22 chapters.
Yeah, we're in it now.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I find it amazing. What's the realm that's right next door? What's the world that's right next door to Throne of Glass and Aurelia?
Spoilers! 2 spoilers for 2 different things.
If you're fucking going through all this shit now, you gotta go read all the other books.
Mm-hmm. All of them.
You gotta just read everything, okay?
All of it. All of it. All of it. All of it.
Fae male, snow-capped mountains, stars above it, pregnant female, beautiful fae, magic that feels like a summer night.
A hell portal being opened up to the gods' world. That's also a thing. That's also a thing. Just gates being opened and the hell world being opened up into the god world, and the gods were just trying to get rid of them.
I missed that my first read through.
A bunch of gates.
I didn't miss... It makes sense that I would miss the hell world part, because I hadn't read
Yep.
number 3 yet.
Spoilers.
We're being vague as possible. Mm-hmm. But if you think about it too hard, you'll figure it out.
Yep.
So don't think about it too hard.
You know, you know.
If you know, you know.
If you read the other books that Sarah J. Maas has put out,
read the other books.
If you've read all of the other books, you will know.
You should read them.
Uh-huh. I read all of those first.
So good.
Technically read them out of order. You're supposed to do Throne of Glass, then ACOTAR, then Crescent City, I think, is her, like...
That's how she released them.
Intends it to be ingested. I read ACOTAR, Crescent City, Throne of Glass.
I still like Throne of Glass last, though.
Oh, I like it. I like it because it actually has an end, technically.
I feel like I would want to read ACOTAR, and then you have to read ACOTAR before you read Crescent City.
Correct.
And you have to read... You don't have to, but sounds dope as fuck, and it looks dope as fuck when you read at least Throne of Glass before the third Crescent City book.
Yeah. I feel like I need to go back and reread Crescent City after reading Throne of Glass. Correct.
Yep.
Because...
There's only one bit in there that you missed that I explained to you already.
Yeah.
But you probably don't even remember it because you didn't have as much context.
Yeah, I had no context for it. Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I have to reread it.
Yeah.
But the first time I read Throne of Glass, I didn't even catch the snow-capped mountains bit.
Well, yeah, there's no reason if you read Throne of Glass first, there's no reason for you to catch that or the other part.
I read it after I'd read, but it was before. The thing is, though, it was before I knew anything about what was going to happen in C3.
Yeah.
So yeah, Rowan inks the map back to him onto her just in case. I also love that, like, fuck, you're gonna plot and keep shit from me at every possible turn.
I'm gonna do the same.
Uno reverse.
Yes.
And now she's immortal, so it's fine. They're gonna have years and years together.
Thousands of years to argue about how they both lied to each other one last time. As
we all survive Erewhon.
Stop. We're going to. It's fine. They're gonna have... She's immortal now. There's literally no other option.
She's immortal. There's no reason that she would die.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
She can't die. She's immortal. That's how being immortal works. You can't die.
You can't die from natural causes. You can still be killed.
No, you can't die.
Okay.
We've seen
so
it.
Erewhon just can't die.
Manon got her whole insides sliced. No, he doesn't count. He's evil. Therefore, he's rotted at his core.
Evil
doesn't count.
And immortal, not okay.
Cancel out.
Good
they cancel each other out.
Okay, gotcha. So is that why Manon
sliced through,
only almost
still
died
alive
because she was evil and now she's
Lorcan only almost dies.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing it. Mm-hmm.
He who shall not be named also almost dies. Technically dies, but
does technically die.
Yeah.
But comes back, so everything's fine.
Yeah, so it's fine. Which I guess in that theory, I have to believe he's inherently good, even though I hate him right now.
See?
Not hate.
Your logic.
But I also hated Lorcan at one point, so like... I hate him right now.
Lorcan made right up now?
For it. No.
Oh.
He who shall not be named.
He who shall not be named. Yeah, no, that's fair.
Voldemort. Not actually. Not even close to equivalent. But, yeah.
I'd give you, like, Draco Malfoy, but that's it. That's as far as I would go.
He who shall not be named is just a Harry Potter thing.
Yeah, so it is. It's hilarious.
For Voldemort, which I just think is funny. Yeah.
Also,
well, that's it. That's all. That's all for this one.
That's all we got for this one. 2 more episodes.
Yep. Next episode is going to be
fine.
chapters 100 to 111. And then, I think, or 110? I think it's 111. And then it's 112 to 122. It's 121 plus the name of the last chapter, which isn't a number. So 122, essentially.
Yeah, 111.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yay.
Thanks for being here. The world is burning, but Aelin's not dead. And neither's Dorian. So.
Also, I feel like we're doing well on the how many times we've cried while recording these. I feel like we're only at like 2, which is not bad.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for just this book. I can't remember how many times I've cried in the other in the other books.
I don't think I cried at all for the other books.
You teared up at something, I feel like, but I can't remember what it was.
Anything that had to do with Fleetfoot and Evangeline.
That's what I first thought. That's what I thought was. I think it might have been something with Fleetfoot.
Yeah, wasn't there? Remember. Fleetfoot gets hurt at some point, and I went, no.
Yeah, illegal. Yeah.
But then
we literally start the episode saying Fleetfoot's fine.
Mm-hmm. I just need you to know Fleetfoot is fine.
We'll say that at the beginning of next episode. Abraxos is okay, as far as we know.
Yeah, Abraxos is fine. We haven't heard anything.
We have a nod. We have a shallow nod from Manon.
Yeah, so therefore Abraxos is fine. Noreen has passed, though.
Abraxos is
which I didn't. She, of course, texted me. I texted her and I was like, oh my god, Abraxos, and then, like, all the 13. And she goes, yeah, and Abraxos is mate. And I went,
twisted the dagger.
I didn't even think about that.
I went to message it and I was like, this is gonna make it hurt worse, but it's not like it's gonna get any better, so I might as well just send it home.
Yep. I didn't think about Abraxos' mate
which dead. Is also why it like warms my heart so much that what he does after they all pass is he's worried about Manon when he's just lost his mate too. Ah,
he knows
he's too pure for this world.
Yeah. Well,
I hope he just gets the most luscious, lovely bed and all of the treats and food he could ever want in his whole life.
All the flowers to sniff.
Oh, so pretty.
Well, thank you, friends, for being here, and hanging out for this episode. We'll see you next time, and you can find us at the Smut Peddlers on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok for additional content.
Thanks, everybody.
More suffering to come. Bye.
Bye.